Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on our first webinar. This pandemic has taught us a number of things as an organization and has helped us grow actually so much. And one of the things we are excited about exploring is more online presentations. My name is Pierre from Westhuizen. I'm the Executive and Artistic Director of the Gilmour, and I'm joined by Adam Schumaker, our Director of Education. And we were brainstorming as we are leading into this season, this upcoming season. And as I mentioned, with the world coming back online in real life and the world opening up, we are so excited about our upcoming festival in 2022. And with that, sort of a relaunch of our Gilmore Festival Fellows program. And just the idea that in the world, the whole festival landscape as a whole can be sort of bewildering. If you are a young student starting out and wanting to explore the world of festivals and wondering what's right for you, and how do I even approach this this world? How do I make headway in this? Because there are dozens and dozens. There are costs involved, so it's hard to decide which one would be worth it for you, and which one you would actually have a chance of getting in, et cetera, et cetera. Just a million questions. And so we thought of doing a little something, some brainstorming on that, and put some thoughts together for you as to my take on that, and leading into the Gilmore Festival Fellows program as well. And Adam comes at it from the entrepreneurship side and the business side, and having run all of our education programs, and being a composer himself, and just entrepreneur, live stream guru, all kinds of other stuff. We know firsthand that it takes a lot of tools and to make it work as a successful musician. You can't just rely on one single thing. And the idea of participating in a festival, in master classes, lessons, talks, etc., can be life-changing and extremely valuable as one of the many tools you use to take on your career. So Adam, if you are ready with that, we have a little slideshow that we prepared. And Adam is going to run that for us. And we are going to be talking about navigating this whole festival landscape. And if you go on to the next one, Adam, we're approaching this sort of in three larger topics: the search process, application, applying for a festival, and then funding. What's involved in costs, and what are some of the funding resources that you can access to help you get where you want to be and achieve your goals. So let's start first with the search. The fundamental question: which festival is right for me? And here I really recommend that you focus on your strengths. If you know that you are a soloist, or you want to be a soloist, I think most people that are logging on here are students, serious piano students, or maybe even college level. I think most are college level students. If you aren't, let us know where you are in your career. There are some great festivals that focus on honing the skills of a solo career. And in fact, most of them are focused on that. But if I were to highlight a few, there's a wonderful festival in New York called the International Keyboard Institute and Festival. And then there is Piano Fest in the Hamptons, which is run by Paul Shenley, that's a name you'll hear again later on in the presentation. Paul and I worked together in Cleveland. I was the executive director of the Cleveland International Piano Competition before coming to the Gilmore, and Paul is the artistic director of the Cleveland International Piano Competition. He was also head of the piano department at the Cleveland Institute of Music for many years. And what makes Piano Fest such a wonderful festival is there's plenty of performance opportunities for the pianists who participate there. There's also plenty of networking and interaction. All of the pianists live together, practice together, eat together in one house in the Hamptons. And so it's very intense. It's only a few accepted. And there are basically daily lessons, master classes. So it's a very, very nurturing environment. So it also depends on what you are interested in, where you are in your development. Something like the International Keyboard Institute and Festival in New York is all master classes, and there's a competitive element to that as well. So that's much more public, and it's, I wouldn't say cutthroat is probably the wrong word, but it's very high intensity, high energy. Whereas with Piano Fest, the environment is very nurturing, and then it's a lot more focused on the performance aspect. Then there is the wonderful Southeastern Piano Festival, run by Marina Lomazov, who teaches at Eastman School of Music. And that is geared toward from very young musicians in their early teens all the way through collegiate level. Then there is Piano Texas in Texas, and for a long time they were associated with the Clyburn competition. So, and there's a competitive element to that as well. They have a concerto competition, and you get to try out, play a movement of a concerto. And, you know, I think in years past, they even had you play with an orchestra down the road. CCM, the College Conservatory of Music, has something called Art of Piano. There's the Oxford Piano Festival in England, the Chautauqua Institution, and then Lake Como Academy in Italy. Our 2006 Gilmore artist, Ingrid Fleeter, also teaches at this academy. And that is a very, very intense summer program where you go and you are in residence basically for summer. And now I know Oberlin has also started a partnership with Lake Como Academy, where it's the Como Oberlin Festival. And some of those artist faculty will come to the States and vice versa. So it's a great opportunity, something to look out for if you go to the Oberlin College website. Now, I know that not everybody is, you know, focused on having a solo career, even though, or maybe, you know, wanting a solo career. There are so many different things you can do as a working pianist. Being a soloist is but one avenue, one thing that you can explore. Chamber music is a vast field, and it's a field that I particularly love. My personal experience in chamber music, I call it chamber music, although it's very niche in there. It's two piano. My wife and I are a two piano team, and we approach it very much like chamber music. But then, of course, you know, being a trained pianist, and for you all who are serious pianists, you know the world of chamber music, and I'm sure everybody has had an opportunity to work with a chamber music setting, either whether it be piano trio or quartet or duo, whatever the case may be. There are several wonderful festivals who really focus on chamber music. Aspen is one where you can really be teamed up with chamber music partners for a summer. Music Academy of the West. There is, and that's in California. And then there is the Great Lakes Chamber Music Festival, which is just down the road here from us, toward the west of the state, around the Detroit area. They have something called the Schause Institute, which is something my wife and I participated in many years ago, where they, it's this audition program, and they invite a number of chamber music groups to participate sort of as fellows and in training. and they work alongside the festival artists. They play prelude concerts, and you even get to participate in one of the headline events. But then you also have a lot of coaching and master classes with the festival artists there, and you get to participate in reading sessions, reading lots of new repertoire. As a pianist, I know sight reading can either be a very scary thing or a very enjoyable thing for us, but there's nothing like throwing yourself into it and just reading a whole bunch of repertoire with friends. So I really recommend the Great Lakes Chamber Music Festival. One of the biggest ones, Verbier Academy in Switzerland. If you're up for traveling overseas when the world gets back to normal, that is a really wonderful academy that has a very extensive fellows program, not only for, they have an orchestra there, so for string players, but they also for pianists. And there is a competition also attached to that, where it's called the Vendôme Prize, which is also quite prestigious. And so as part of your residency there, you participate in master classes and have an opportunity to give concerts and also participate in this competition. Tanglewood, we all know about Tanglewood. That's one of the grand, venerable festivals of the United States. And they have a very long-standing fellowship program. And there's lots of opportunities for chamber music there. When you go to Tanglewood as an audience member, I think 2 or 3 times during the week, you can observe the rehearsal sessions, but then there's also fellows concerts that happens as matinees or during the mornings. And those are jam-packed, and you as a pianist get to participate in a variety of settings. You also get to play new music and work with composers who are in residence there to work on new music. So that's a really wonderful opportunity. Marlborough has a Marlborough Festival. I love the Marlborough Festival. It's a very unique festival, the way it's designed. The younger musicians who are at Marlborough have an opportunity, again, to work with the professional musicians, and they come from all over the world, and they rehearse a number of recital programs for something like 4 or 5 weeks. And then when the principal or lead artist of the group decides that something is ready to present to the artistic director for a concert, they make a pitch and they throw their name in the hat for that. And the audience, the programs aren't really announced way in advance. It's only a few days beforehand that everybody who's around there knows what's actually being played at the concerts that weekend. What I love about Marlborough, I've been there a couple of summers. It's a very, again, that whole nurturing environment. Everybody eats together. The musicians serve each other, and if guests arrived, I remember attending, being at one of the lunches, and right afterwards there was an impromptu concert right in the dining hall that popped up. So that kind of magical moments is just really something that makes Marlborough worth a look at if you are looking at developing your skills. Some people would like to focus more on art song. There's a wonderful art song festival hosted at the Cleveland Institute of Music. They have had Warren Jones, Martin Katz, all wonderful vocal coaches, and you are paired with a singer, and together you participate in master classes and play in concerts. There are new music festivals. One that comes to mind is New Music Gathering in New York. That is sort of an incubator of new music, and lots of talks and films and discussions and in performances along with that. It depends also where you are in your career and your development. If you are a teacher and you want to participate in something that focuses on specific teaching skills, there is something called the Golansky Institute at Princeton, where they talk about the Taubman method, and this is all about relaxation and something we can touch on again later on with the fellows. As pianists, we don't often think about some of the performance injuries that come across our way until it's too late. And by attending one of these festivals or talking with somebody who's been through that is really eye-opening and can be very beneficial. Regardless of where you end up, I encourage everybody to at least attend one of these workshops or clinics to really become aware of your body when you are practicing and performing. Then, furthering this idea of where you are in your career and your development, there are others that are purely focused on the student. So we talked about Aspen and Tanglewood, and we'll get to the Gilmore Fellows in a minute. But Piano Texas, just to circle back there, the program is developed in such a way that there is room for students, but then also amateur pianists and teachers. And so they have all of these different topics and different sessions depending on where you are in your career, which is quite wonderful. So worth checking out. And then there is for students also something called the Philadelphia Young Pianists Academy, PYPA in Philadelphia. I know Chingen Hu very well, who's the artistic director of this phenomenal festival. It's a couple of weeks long. Daily master classes, lectures, performance opportunities at the Kimmel Center in Philadelphia, concerto competition, and then throughout the year for those participants, further career development programs, especially now during the pandemic, it all went online. If you are purely focused on the competition circuit and wanting to make your mark in the competition world and see if you can excel in competitions. Lake Como has a long history through that summer festival of really having success in training folks for success at competitions. Again, the Verbier Festival has this competitive element. Southeastern Piano Festival has this competition element. The PYPA, Philadelphia Young Pianist Academy, has the competition element. And then Piano Texas was its concerto competition. And then some of you may also want to just think about exploring different options, expanding your horizon, or discovering your artistic voice. Again, here I would recommend Tanglewood because there are so many other talks and lectures and discussions and interactions with visiting artists, composers, musicologists. Marlborough is the same way. Chautauqua is uniquely positioned for that because the Piano Festival is positioned within the Chautauqua institution, which is all about furthering, developing your mind, opening your mind. And they have guest speakers from all over the world presenting fascinating topics which you can participate in when you're at the Chautauqua Institute. And then something that we are hoping to bring back here in the future, or bring here absolutely in the future, that we were planning on having in 2020 that was unfortunately canceled, is the Partitura residency from Maria João Pires. And this is I think it's a 9-day residency where she assigns pieces to you along with books to read, and then one specific piece, and everybody sits in on everybody else's lessons. And so it's a group lesson environment. There's guest faculty involved that's alongside the pianist the whole time. So it could be a dancer, a philosopher, a filmmaker, a poet, whatever the case might be. And the idea would be then to also, during the evenings, have interdisciplinary discussions to talk about the musician's role, the artist's role in the world, and what would you like to say as an artist? Who are you discovering yourself along with that? So this brings me to the Gilmore Festival Fellows. Our fellowship will be in April, May 2022. And we were, in designing this festival fellowship, we were looking at the festival landscape and seeing if there is something that can draw on elements from all of these things that I just talked about, the solo focused, um, the entrepreneur, the expanding your horizons, where are you in your artistic development? What do you want to say? Thinking about mental health and practice habits, all of these things alongside honing your skills. So we have built something that we're really proud of here, in that it takes these three main elements: the art of the piano, the person at the piano, and the business of the piano, and built a fellowship that addresses each of these components individually. And I'll just start, in describing the festival fellowship, we have this little, it's on the website too, but it bears worth saying again, today's most successful artists, know so much more than the music. They know how to navigate the industry, how to build an audience, engage in creative programming, respond to cultural shifts, and cultivate an extensive network of peers and collaborators. And if you want to move on to the next slide, Adam. So we'll start with what we're going to do at the Festival Fellowship. First is talking about the art of the piano. We have 3 artists in residence who will be each leading a session of 5 days each during the festival. We have Paul Shenley, Michelle Kahn, and Ingrid Fleeter, our 2006 Gilmour artist. Paul Shenley, who I mentioned before, there he is, was artistic director of Piano Fest. Michelle Kahn, a wonderful pianist who I happened to meet at Piano Fest a number of years ago when I went and visited, but she has now been named as the Eleanor Sokolov Chair in Piano at the Curtis Institute of Music, and has done some wonderful things during the pandemic with the Philadelphia Orchestra. And then Ingrid Fleeter, who is a festival favorite. She has been named as a Gilmour artist in 2006, and she's been the first and only woman Gilmour artist, and Argentinian pianist, and has been back to the festival pretty much every festival since then. We're very excited to have them in residence. They'll be teaching daily for each of these fellows who are in residence. They'll also be teaching masterclass in a group setting, and each giving a talk about a topic that is close to their heart that they want to address during their session here with the fellows. So there'll be that. You'll also, if you go back, there'll also be, as in years past, we have all of these festival artists. Over the years, we've had some really amazing pianists come to the festival, and 2022 will be no exception. Will be no different. There'll be really a stellar lineup, and most of them have agreed to give masterclasses to the festival fellows. So in addition to your teaching, there'll be an opportunity to have a masterclass with these festival artists as well. And then the fellows here have a pass to attend all concerts and events for free as part of their fellowship program. And in fact, it's mandatory that you, while you are in residence here, that you attend these concerts, because nothing teaches more. This is not anything new I'm saying, but there's nothing quite like that learning experience by seeing, hearing somebody, a master in action, and having that experience. So then part of the festival is, or the festival fellowship is, the person at the piano. And how does that look like? We are inviting guest speakers from around the country to talk about a variety of topics. They'll be presenting keynote talks, and then they'll have additional coaching sessions with the fellows. Topics include balancing practicing with life, developing, maintaining safe practice habits, and understanding common injuries and how to avoid them, and how do you protect yourself from stress-related health issues. One of our guest speakers is Jonathan Biss, who just released a wonderful audiobook on his journey recording all of the Beethoven piano sonatas and the mental toll that that took on him. And, you know, he wrote this, it's almost like a memoir of that experience and wanting to share that experience with others and, you know, help guide others through that. And how do you maintain that mental health when you take on a lot, you take on so much. The importance of the personal and social side of the music industry. So we'll have an opportunity to work with these guest speakers to talk about relationship building, collaborating, mentoring, networking, all of these things. We have Yoonbi Kim and Oni Buchanan, who will be talking about that. Yoonbi, in particular, has, there she is in the middle, Yoonbi Kim. She has founded a company called Bespoken, and she is a very beautiful mentorship program. And she also identifies, you know, young talent and focuses on diversity and you know, entrepreneurship, creative thinking. How do you design something that is new and fresh and focuses on your own artistic voice as well? So I'm really excited. She has made an enormous impact, especially in the field of new music. Oni Buchanan is not only an artist manager, but she's also a pianist and a poet. And so I'm excited to have her thoughts on the artist's role in global citizenship. How do we respond to cultural shifts? Amanda Cook over there is a writer. She is editor-in-chief of I Care If You Listen. And she has also written for the Wall Street Journal and Washington Post. She's a critic as well, and she'll be here leading the fellows through some coaching sessions on writing as well, and what to listen for, how do you write well about music, how do you engage as a writer with music. And this will also help really in the last point there with the person of the piano, or 2 points there. You know, how do you respond to cultural shifts? How do you engage as a global citizen and participate in national or international conversations on what is culturally relevant? What can you contribute to that? And if you'd like, how do you want to contribute to that? What is something that you are passionate about? And how do you bring that into your art? And then that leads to your artistic voice. How do you craft your own artistic voice? Because that is really, it's a very, you know, it's sort of like opaque topic. How do you know this? When you say develop your own artistic voice, well, what do you mean? What, you know, I'm right here, right now, just focusing on practicing my Bach and my Chopin Etude and my Beethoven Sonata and trying to get through that. What do you mean, you know, focusing on your own artistic voice? Well, the reality is, once you're done with all of that and honed all of that and gotten to the highest point where you can as in your craft, the next level becomes then, well, there's a whole sea of others like that, like you out there. And how do you stand out? What makes you different? What do you have to say? And the good news is you are different, every single one. And you do have something to say. And you're not going to discover that by just sitting at the piano 6 hours a day. You're going to discover that by talking to people, interacting with people, traveling, reading. There are so many different ways that you can explore how to find that voice. And this part of these keynote talks is helping you just unlock that a little bit. And then the business side of the piano. That is, I mean, you can build a whole fellowship around that. Because I'm very passionate about this, and I want to have Adam jump in at some point here. But in my career leading up to coming to the Gilmore, I first, you know, I was a student just like you. and then started to do a piano team with my wife. We started concertizing and traveling around the world. Um, then I started teaching at Heidelberg College and made a 180 degrees into arts administration, where I was at the Cleveland International Piano Competition. And now here I am at the Gilmore. And time and again, looking back over the years, I keep thinking, gosh, I wish at some point during my undergraduate years or graduate years, somebody had sit me down and say, okay, so this is the career you're about to enter. All of the conversations up until that point was very craft specific. You are all engaged in honing your craft as a musician. But then once that is all set, you are asked to enter a whole career. And with most other fields, sort of the craft and talking about the career goes hand in hand. When you're talking about an engineering or being a doctor or a dentist or whatever the case may be. But with the world of music, we tend to separate that, the money talk, the business talk, with the art. And it for many years also has been kind of frowned upon. A musician shouldn't engage in that kind of thing. That's what you have an agent for. Well, um, we've learned that it is so much better for you as a musician and your career when you can speak the speak just as well as your agent or manager. So we will have topics like social media and the persona. How do you separate your personal life and your persona, your professional life on social media? How do you build a persona on social media that really talks about who you want to be as an artist? Um, and then how to engage with managers and agents and what do they do? This is why we have Oni Buchanan here. And then the pianist as entrepreneur. And here I'd like Adam to talk a little bit about this. Since you have done so many different things, Adam, what can you share a little bit about what your thoughts on there for the fellows and entrepreneurship?
Sure, Pierre. Thanks for all the good information so far. I'm learning a lot too.
Absolutely.
So, the idea of pianist as entrepreneur, I think, can be applied to really any artist. Obviously, we're focusing on pianists with this fellowship. But as Pierre mentioned, we're learning. I think there's a sector of musicians that have been learning for decades that there are pathways and there are routes you can take. There are things you can do that are not publicly part of an education through a university or a college, or even festivals sometimes, where you can get ahead of the curve and start developing and curating your own career. You can you can take action to program your own concerts and be your own agent and manager if you wish. You can take on other skill sets and include them as part of your artistry, and also as part of your income. There's countless examples of people doing this, and I think most of it has been flying under the radar of academic institutions and people in the field because we're used to seeing somebody on stage as the artist who all they do is perform, and their manager books them. They get a performance fee, and they travel the world. But there's a whole other group of artists, and I'd say, you never know where those boundaries are drawn, but more and more people are writing books, producing events, creating companies and organizations, doing something different with their programming that makes them not needed to go out and win competitions because they're just sought after because they found their own pathway. And so that's what we're talking about with the pianist as the entrepreneur. You don't have to be like the tech industry, change the world with your revolutionary idea, but you have to start thinking about yourself, the pianist, the artist, as a business. And how can I manage that so that I can do the things I want to do and live the way I want to live, both lifestyle and financially. So that all ties in together with how we start perceiving our careers as musicians.
That's very
And
well said. Yeah.
I think, two of our, I'll just go to the next slide if that's okay,
Hmm.
Pierre. Two of our visiting, guest speakers for the time, that I'm really excited to have, both, have high experience in this idea as an entrepreneur. Aaron Dworkin, who is the founder of the Sphinx organization, professor at University of Michigan, an artist in his own right, an author, a playwright. I think he's even been in movies, and
Yeah.
he's a jack of all trades.
Painter.
Yeah, painter. Yep, yep. Um, Highly talented individual, and also knows the way around this idea of entrepreneur. And also Lara Downs, who is touring pianist, producing her own programs, winning grants, and just kind of changing the face of how we view the artist and the performer. And so they'll be part of our guest speaker series, both delivering public keynotes and doing workshops with the Gilmore Festival Fellows.
Right. Yeah, it's something that was sort of mind blowing for my wife and I when we first started out performing. We kind of tend to think, oh my gosh, who would want to? Oh, we're just students. We're just starting out. And we had a wonderful mentor at Heidelberg College who said, okay, kids, this is not rocket science. Make yourself a little brochure, which you can do, and put together a list of colleges and presenting organizations in the area. Go and make a recording and put a little package together and drop that in the mail. Just things like that, little pointers of, my gosh, where do I even start? Which is what agents would have normally done, but agents are often overwhelmed and very focused on the major stars as well. So anyway, I'm excited about learning from these two particularly as well. So let's move on to the application portion. And Les, do you want to, shall we pause for a couple of questions if there are questions now before we move into the application?
Yeah, I would say, if anybody has any immediate questions at the moment, you're welcome to drop them in the chat, or I don't know if
We
there's a
can also
hand
hold
raised
it
on
for the
this.
end.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hold it to the end too, but um, yeah.
Um, okay. So applying for a festival, this is um, honestly, I feel like for students, you're either practicing or applying for something that or you're in a classroom. I feel like so much of a student's life is consumed by applying for things um, and filling out a gazillion forms and hoping for the best. But how do you really make sure that your application stands out? Um, and how do you know, um, make sure that you're applying your resources, in a worthwhile way, make that investment count. So for the Festival Fellows application, um, there is a application that's on our website right now. And I would say it mirrors many other similar applications in what it is asking of you. Um, and you will find the similar things for applying for competitions, applying for jobs down the road, applying for grad school, anything like that. There's a lot of these similar things that once you have it in place in one place, you can typically use it again. Um, First up is, you know, making that distinction between what is a bio, what is a resume, and what is a CV. You know, it seems very easy until I ask 3 or 4 different people and I get 3 or 4 different answers. And so I will say, from my perspective, um, let's start with the CV, curriculum vitae. A curriculum vitae is really your academic history. It's a history, play by play, of all of your academic credentials and your achievements, your qualifications. Um, that pertain to the field of music, to the field of piano. So in a CV, there's also this place where you list all kinds of honors and honor societies that you were involved in, competitions that you won, all kinds of different things like that. Your references go in there. So it's basically all about you, from the minute you entered the professional life. Then a resume is going to be very industry specific. This is what you use when applying for a job. This is very for a specific position, right? And Adam, feel free to jump in if you have anything to add.
You froze there for a
Oh,
second.
did I? Okay.
Could you
Oh,
repeat
it
that
says
part
my
about resume?
connection is unstable. Sorry. Am I on now? Okay, so
yeah.
Resume. Resume is very job specific, and you use that for job applications. I do not need to know on a resume what honor societies am I freezing up again?
Yeah, you are.
Oh no. Well,
can only do so much.
Such is the world of internet, right?
Yes.
Not much we can do about that. Sorry about that, you all. And then a bio. A bio here is you have 250 words to describe who you are. What is your focus? Why we should pay attention to you. That is really the idea of a biography. Again, it doesn't have to be a play-by-play. It is your opportunity to make your vision statement. Who are you? What are you aiming to achieve in general? So at the fellowship application, we will ask you to upload a CV and a bio. We're not asking for a resume because it's not a job application. This is a fellowship. We're also asking for a letter of support. This letter of support or letter of intent is where you have an opportunity to tell us why you should be considered as a fellow. And this is really where we want to see what mind you have, what is really there, what drives you, what makes you want to explore this opportunity. What do you bring to the table? That would be exciting to us. What is unique about you? And then a recording. I can talk forever about recording. You have an opportunity to present a variety of pieces. We do not specify which piece, it has to be Baroque or classical or romantic. We do not specify that. So please don't feel like you have to present a piece from one of these, every era. We want you to put your best foot forward and sort of going with your letter of intent. If you say, I'm really passionate about Italian keyboard repertoire, and I love the world of Scarlatti, and this is, I love historical performance and keyboard instruments and building pianos and all of these things. But then you upload a video of John Cage or things like that. That doesn't kind of, it wouldn't compute. So play to your strengths here. If what you're passionate about, give us some video material about that too. Make it all look cohesive. And it doesn't have to be, okay, my standard Bach, my standard Beethoven, my standard Chopin etude. Really, you can be creative here. This is not a competition application. This is a fellowship where we are interested in the entire person behind that piano. and I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Make sure that you invest in some good, decent equipment, um, or either try and get into a professional recording studio. We're not talking about major edits. In fact, we do not want edited video. I don't, it doesn't have to look like an MTV production, but uh, and the quality of the video and the audio in particular, the higher you can get that, if you can work with professional folks, if you can afford to do so, I encourage you. But there's also some really affordable equipment that you can purchase, that you can make recordings at school or at home. um, Adam has some great suggestions if you want to ask him afterwards. We've been helping out folks with live streaming throughout this pandemic because the whole world went that way. And so here's some great tips on how to make a great recording with a decent piano. And then finally, talking about funding. This again, I want to turn over to Adam because that is uh, again, you can talk for hours about that, but you've seen so many different ways of doing this and going about this. You have some great perspective on that.
Thanks, Pierre. I'll start with first recognizing that traditionally the festival programs have been expensive, and a challenge for people to meet those financial commitments. I've seen this discourse a lot on kind of this new music Twitter and people talking about the festival experience. What's interesting is, although it is expensive generally and traditionally, um, people still see great value in this ability to learn in an in-depth environment with, high-level artists, and with the ability to network with a great community of scholars and artists. So there's no doubt that these festivals are still a valuable experience despite some of the finances. I'll also lead with too that one of our challenges that we saw with trying to change this festival landscape with the Gilmore Festival Fellows was to eliminate that barrier. Although we do have an application fee, those who are accepted will get fully funded plus a stipend. So, we spent some extra time making sure that funding could happen. And I'll give kudos to Pierre to creating that connection. And so that the fellows that do make it into the program, they won't have to worry too much about paying tuition, since that tuition is covered through the festival fellowship. And so that's really exciting for us to be able to do that. That being said, there's a lot of great festivals that do cost money. And regardless of your financial background, I know some people can just find it. Some people have family to support them. Some people work 5 jobs, right? But there are other ways to get it funded. I'm going to say that they're highly dependent on the festival, on your location, on your state, your county sometimes. So just keep that in mind as I offer a few ideas. And I also, just put that out there too. These aren't necessarily abundant. It really depends on the region. My number one advice is to really try and get ahead of it. So even if you think you're going to apply for a certain amount of festivals, seek out funding for those if you can, at least a year in advance. The closer you can get to a year in advance, or 8 months or even 6 months, but especially like once you get to that 6 month mark, you're kind of missing out on grant opportunities that could come into play. So really try and plan ahead with what you want to apply to and the potential acceptance into those programs, because there are grant cycles that may start in like an August deadline for programming that happens, that following December through next December, right? So we're talking a year and a half cycle. So if you can get ahead of the game and apply for professional development grants, I know in Michigan we have a state regranting agency, the MCACA, that delivers national and state funds to different arts hubs. And those hubs have professional development grants that are abundant, I would say, and sometimes go unspent. And so if you can seek those out in your area, those professional development grants can be really useful to applying to something. And like any grant, it doesn't. Let's say you make a grant application, and you don't get into the festival that you wanted to get into, but you got into another one that wasn't on the application. A grant won't worry about that. They'll still give you funding. It's just all about that final report saying I was aiming for this, and this happened instead, and totally fine. So even taking a guess at where you're going with these festivals and a guess at the budget and applying for that grant can be a huge relief in financing your own education and your own festival experiences. Other areas you can look for that aren't grant based. And then just to reaffirm with the grants, local grants and regional grants first. And then if you can seek out national grants, those are obviously more competitive than the local ones, but do some research, get ahead of it, and see what's out there. The other thing you can do too is ask festivals for financial aid. Many festivals have financial aid packages or financial aid options that are not highly advertised. It's just a matter of asking. And there might be different requirements depending on what festival you're looking at. But if you can ask them right ahead before you apply, I'm sure they'll give you all the information that they have regarding that. And those who ask are usually the ones to get the first stab at that. The other side of this is to look at scholarships and funding within your own institution. So if you're currently a college student and pursuing a degree path, even sometimes, I mean, dare I say employers might, but probably not. But those college and universities sometimes have scholarships that go unknown to students. And so seeking out those scholarships through your mentors and through your professors, through your advisors, and seeing what your institution has to offer could be a really good place to look. So those are my three areas to look at, and obviously choosing festivals that you think you can save up for or afford if funding were to fall through is a great great thing to plan on too. That's my quick funding spiel that I'll
I will
give there.
offer, and I will offer too. Again, when I was still a student, my wife and I got accepted into a festival in Italy. And so one of the things you can also do is we worked with the local church to help organize a fundraising concert. We played a concert, and the community volunteers helped us fundraise as part of that and helped us raise the funds for the airline tickets there. So there's a variety of things you can do.
How entrepreneurial of you, Pierre.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
but the more planning ahead of that you can get, the more you can develop these tactics to make that not such a financial blow.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I think we can go over. I think there's a couple of slides left. Maybe just I think it's the photos of who the artists are, and but let's see if there are some questions. I know Angeline, you had a question about the number of fellows for the program. Um, we will be accepting 27 fellows, so it's really quite significant. So there'll be 3 different sessions, as I mentioned, and 9 fellows per session. We do ask that a fellow, it is April, May, so it's a tricky time of year, but we do ask that the fellows be here for 5 days in residence as part of that fellowship program. Are there other questions? Yeah, feel free to, if you want to unmute and ask a question or drop it in the chat. That is totally fine.
And I think regarding the fellowship program, I put a link up in the chat that announces the fellowship and can link you to some of the guest speakers that I think we talked about most of them, but there'll be more. And there'll be also festival artists that we can't talk about until festival announcement,
Right.
that are very exciting masterclass artists. So yeah, that information is posted. The Gilmore Fellowship application is open and can be found through that link. And if you have any questions about it, you're welcome to shoot me an email. It's, yeah, can help you out with that. Yeah, any questions about, oh, here we go. Yep. So Angeline's asking, are fellows limited to one session? Do you want me to answer that, or you want?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so we are scheduling 3 sessions, and we will have up to 9 fellows at each. And so yes, we are taking one fellow, or each fellow will be able to attend one session. I don't. It doesn't mean that I think you could stay and observe if you had the means to hang around and watch the rest of the festival. But in terms of funding tuition and including the fellows in master classes and sessions with artists, one session is what we're aiming for.
Yeah. Or there's a question about age requirements and different levels of applicants. I think we have said 18 plus, right? 18 and over, but there is no upper age limit for the festival fellows. As far as the levels of applicants, we are looking for accomplished pianists, not at the intermediate level, but advanced and college level performance. And but we're looking for curious minds. So we're looking for pianists who are still on that path of learning, that path of discovery. Um, you know, we're looking for people who are wanting to learn, who are ready to learn. This is probably not something for a professional concert pianist who already has a career and knows what they are doing. um, knows where they are going. So this is, you're still discovering, you're still exploring, and you're still honing your skills. I hope that answers the question, Brian. You're welcome.
I'll also say, Pierre, maybe you can answer this. Pablo asked in a direct message to me, what kind of repertoire should a student bring to the program?
To the fellowship itself, there I would encourage as varied as possible. Still focusing on, your what you're passionate about and something that you would want to maybe work on one-on-one with the artist in residence, with either Paul or Michelle or Ingrid. And you have an opportunity to indicate, which session you would prefer to be in. I will just say that, depending on the teacher. And once we announce the lineup of festival artists, but then, yes, there will be festival artists who will be giving master classes. And, if you can think of a variety of repertoire to put together that could be offered in a masterclass setting for a festival artist, the more varied, the better, I'll say, because we'll have pianists from all over the world who have excelled or focused on one thing or another, and so we kind of work in collaboration. We ask the festival artists what would be more appealing to them. So we'll look at the entire repertoire that you are presenting, and the festival artists will say, "Well, I'd love to teach that Chopin scherzo," so something like that. Yeah.
I'll also add that the application itself, it has 5 repertoire slots for you to enter pieces you're working on and be willing to present in the spring of 2022.
Yep.
So that is a required part of the application, is to know that repertoire. Of course, if something changes, you can email that to us, especially if you're accepted and those 5 choices become slightly different. But that helps us, like Pierre said, match you in different masterclass situations with different artists.
And Angeline, as to your question for non-fellows to attend as observers, absolutely. The master classes, the keynote talks, those kind of things are all open actually to the public. The teaching, where you have the one-on-one coaching with the artist teachers, those are private sessions. But the group sessions that the keynote speakers will have with the fellows, those anybody can observe as an auditor, the keynote talks itself, and then the master classes. Absolutely. Wonderful, Angela. I look forward to it. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and for, hearing us out and learning a little bit more. Oh, that's a great question, Angelina, about hybrid. Adam, you want to take that one?
Yes. So we are planning on streaming, I know, our keynote talks with our artists, entrepreneurs. I think, well, I think we're allowed to say that much of the festival will have live stream options.
Yes.
Um, of course, the individual sessions with artists and residents, those will be not hybrid, but many of the activities and the presentations will have video streaming options,
Yeah.
and that is being planned on.
Yeah. We're very excited about that. Um, Concert performances for participants. Pablo, it's a great question. We haven't explored that in more concretely yet, as we're still building out the festival schedule. But as in years past, we have tried to, if there is an opening in the schedule or a way that we can make that work, it will probably be then sort of as a group recital where the 9 will have an opportunity to perform as a shared recital. But yeah, we're hoping that would be a possibility.
And in the past planning, I should say,
Sure.
we are looking at community concerts
Yes.
with the participants. So, outreach programming in different parts of the greater Kalamazoo community, as also a means of performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you everyone for attending today.
Yeah.
Again, reach out if you have questions about application or really anything we've covered today. We'd be happy to help.
Yeah.
And yes, please spread the word. It's a really exciting thing that we're offering this next season. So we're very proud of it and hope that we can spread the love and get some good fellows on board.
And watch this space. There'll be some more webinars to come. We have some guest speakers that we'd like to invite for future webinars as well. In the meantime, have a wonderful summer, everybody. Stay safe, and I hope to see you all at the festival next year. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Pierre, and thank you, everybody. This webinar is officially over. So again,
Yeah.
reach out if you have questions, and we'll hope to see your applications.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.